You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, no, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today I'm here with Michael Anthony. Michael is an author of the best-selling book, Think Unbroken, and is a coach, mentor, and educator for adult survivors of child abuse. Michael spends most of his time helping others to get out of the vortex to become the hero of their own story and take their lives back. Michael hosts the Unbroken podcast, teaches that at Think Unbroken Academy, and is on a mission to create change in the world. I love your mission, Michael. I'm on a mission to share hope. So yay, I'm so glad we aligned and I can share your story today.
Yeah, me too. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, one of the first things I ask all my guests to do is share a story of hope with the world, something powerful that helps them understand that, hey, I can do that too.
Yeah. Hope for me is such a powerful and potent word in this journey. And I often think about the idea of the power of words and what they carry in our life in regard to weight and substance and how substantial they can be. And for a long time, I had no hope. I grew up in probably one of the worst homes that you could imagine. And eventually, by the time I was in my mid-20s, I had this breakdown moment. And I was looking at my life from this scope of I haven't shown up for myself. I'm 350 pounds overweight. I'm smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Everything around me is a complete disaster. Everything. And I'm thinking about this idea of how do you become that person that you promised yourself you would be? And I was leveraging this idea from my childhood where I had this moment, we were homeless, and I was literally stealing water from the house next door off their spigot in the middle of August at 9 years old. So we had water in our home. And in that moment, at 26 years old, thinking about my life and where I was and wondering what had happened, I recognized that I had just lost hope, not only in humanity, but in myself and my ability to show up for myself and to ultimately get to that place of being the hero of my own story. And then what's really fascinating about that is hope and the idea that I can create change in my life is a huge part of what guided me down that pathway that almost 10 years later, here I am talking to you.
Wow, that is a beautiful story. I want to talk to you a little bit about your book because I could see it in the background. And I love that Think Unbroken because it's true. Sometimes when we've been broken so much, we can't get out of that thought pattern to think unbroken. And I'm a mindset coach, and I just keep trying to explain to people that those simple shifts in our mind literally open up incredible doors. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Mindset is everything. It's literally the background of my phone, my computer, my life. Everything is about that idea of mindset. Think Unbroken is a book that I wrote because I recognized that it was the book that not only I needed, but it was the book that felt like it was missing in the scope of not only personal growth, but for adult survivors of trauma. Because I've done all of the things. I've been to all the seminars, read all the books, went to even been literally the only civilian in rooms full of PhDs while I'm learning about the science of the brain. And as I was like in this and discovering and reading and on my own personal growth journey, the thing that I felt was missing was that intrinsic reflection of understanding what it was that you just consumed. And the way that I built Think Unbroken was twofold. One, about educating the ideas of not only mindset, but the practical side of how you navigate a trauma experience. And then the intrinsic reflection through journaling, which in essence, the book is meant to be written in. It is supposed to be this thing that you take these ideas and concepts that you're discovering in the moment and transmuting them into reality so you have something to build creation and intention on. And the whole point of me writing that book is because I felt like I was doing all those things in my life and all these other areas. And if I wanted people to step into this journey in a really powerful way, maybe that would be helpful for them here too.
Well, some of the questions I'm going to ask you, I'm so sorry because I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but I find this so fascinating. First of all, I was raised in a family of no abuse, which I know a lot of people are, but how do you talk to those people who have that mindset when somebody is coming from a family of childhood abuse. And maybe it's not even them, because maybe it's a sibling that got a lot of abuse, which traumatized you. What do you say to those people who are like, well, you're an adult now, get over it? Like, I hear that all the time. Like, they're not in your lives anymore. Get over it.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
Are you over the death of your best friend or your mother being murdered? Are you over the terrible things you've done in your life? Are you over the fact that you've had to overcome things that most people could never even fathom? I'm not over it. And to be honest with you, most days I'm pretty pissed off. Like, I carry a huge chip on my shoulder, not in this like destructive way, but in this, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of doing way. And this idea that we should get over it is so incredibly not only dismissive, but it's ignorant, because everyone's journey and experience is so different. And the moment that you say that to someone, you negate their experience as a human being. And realistically, look, I get this, and I will say this from my personal perspective. I used to be get over it guy. Do you know what getting over it got me? Nothing. It destroyed my life. It put me in this position where everything around me was collapsing because I was terrified to face the truth that I needed to do some work because I was getting over it. Right?
By the way, I think that was beautifully said. And I wanted to have that addressed because I hear that all the time. I don't understand why they're still dealing with it. They're 30 years old. Tell them to get over it. And it's not that simple. And when you tell someone that, you're right. You negate anything that they've gone through. You negate their pain, anything that they've been through. It's like it didn't exist. And it did. It's really a platform of who you are now. And so maybe we should say, let's get through it instead of get over it. Like, how do we get through this? Like, how do you get to the other side of that? So that would be the other question for you. How do people start getting to the other side?
Yeah. And it is about getting through it, right? Navigating it, working on it, not pushing it down and stuffing it down. Because guess what? That just feeds the darkness within us, the negative self-talk, the way we treat ourselves, the way we exist in the world. Every time we push that down a little bit more, it also brings us down by proxy. And I always think about this idea of moving through it. There are certain things in my life that, to be honest, I'm never going to be over. I'm never going to not feel anger or shame or guilt in some capacity, because I believe that's human nature. And the idea that we can fully remove ourselves from the experiences that we have, for me, is a little nonsensical. And if it's true that we are the sum total of all of our experiences in life until this moment, which I believe it is, because that is how we are formed and shaped and created, then it also means that all of those experiences now inform the current moment that we're in a way that we have to create understanding about. And I think the first thing that you have to acknowledge if you want to work through this is that you have to have acknowledgement about the fact that bad things happen to you. And that's difficult, and it's hard, and it's dark, and you have this moment where you question reality and the validity of all the things that you've happened in your life, and you sit with it and you go, this really sucks. This is dark. This is ugly. This is murky. I don't like being a part of this. And in that moment, you have to make a choice. In that acknowledgement, are you going to continue to stuff it down, or are you going to step forward in a way that's going to create a change in your life? I believe, without question, we all deep, deep down within us know the thing that we should be doing. Sometimes we just need to shut the hell up and let it happen instead of just trying to get in our own way. I mean, I remember a time I was 24 years old, sleeping until 11 o'clock in the morning, eating chocolate cake for breakfast and watching the CrossFit games. Now you're going to tell me I don't somehow know that's not the life that I should be living? The difference was I hadn't made a choice and declaration to show up for myself because I was terrified. Like most people, I believe, likely are. I was terrified of the idea that on the other side of this really hard, uncomfortable thing, I could actually have the life that I thought I deserved.
So I want to talk now a little bit about exactly that, the terror you take into adult life, because it's terror to speak out, right? Because we're told when this is happening and we're children, or even if like you're a rape victim, what do they say? If you tell anyone, I'll kill you. The parents we don't talk about this outside of the house, and they hide it, right? And so as an adult, you go with that terror of, if I speak out, what's going to happen? I've been always told not to share this. It's our secret, right? How does that secret get out into the world and start creating change and start releasing them and letting them move through it?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I don't know that you have to. I think about this often. The idea that people feel like the way that they release this is by putting out in the world that I think the number one thing that you can do is have connection with it, whether that's with yourself or with the people in your life. And what I mean by that is, can you put yourself in a position where you go to therapy, where you write down in your journal, where you do all the things that you say that you're going to do? Ultimately, it's human connection and expressing it. Think about this. If you're carrying just a ton of weight with you all the time, wherever you go, then it would hold true that sometimes if someone picked up one of those bricks for you, it would really help you in your journey.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is how you're showing up in the world now. How are you creating that change?
Yeah, it starts every single day with how I choose to show up in my life. And as I mentioned, sitting in bed watching CrossFit games, eating chocolate cake is not showing up in your life. And now I think about, okay, if I want to, ultimately, here's my goal. I look at my goal as, how do I help 1 million people step out of the vortex and ultimately become the hero of their own story? I recognize that at the end of the day, ultimately, everything that Think Unbroken is about is putting myself out of business. Why? Because I don't actually want this job. I never signed up to be the spokesperson for trauma, but God, spirit, the universe, whatever you want to call it, has led me here, and I feel empowered by it. But I also know that what I'm doing helps. Here's the thing about this, though. The reality of reducing childhood trauma and abuse to the point of zero, in which I no longer have to have a job, is probably not going to happen in my lifetime. But exponentially, through the growth of not only conversations like this, but people who read the book and so on and so forth, all of the change and healing that's happening in the world, I move towards that every single day, knowing I may not actually reach that goal in my life. The way that I show up for myself every single day is by thinking about the person that I want to be, and then leveraging the question of, what am I willing to do to have the life that I want to have? And the answer for that is whatever the hell it takes. And so that means every single day, because I give so much to the world, first I have to take care of myself, right? I have my normal daily habits and routines: yoga, meditation, journaling, reading, non-negotiable, every single day. Now, of course, you have these days where it doesn't happen. That's fine, whatever. But the thing about it is, can I show up for myself today? Can I put my feet on the ground, acknowledge my power, my love for myself, which that's a whole nother story, right? And then put myself in a position where I just move forward a little bit every single moment of every single day, knowing that ultimately that goal, that's what drives me. And that's why I show up for myself.
So one of the things you keep saying that I just want to draw attention to, because it's one of my big things too, is you keep saying, I choose. I choose. And you do get to choose for yourself. You do get to write your story. And part of that beautiful story that was, no matter how much pain that might have been involved in it, is part of your story. It's part of the reason, like, you're showing up the way you are, helping people get through this, become their own heroes, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If I had a magic pill that I could give everyone that would make me super unbelievably rich, it would be the power of choice and understanding that you have agency in whatever happens in your life. I think about this. In that moment where I was 26 years old, looking in the mirror, I'm a size 4XL shirt, size 47 pants, my face is fat and jaundiced, and I'm just like hating my world. I made a declaration, and that was, I was going to do whatever it took. That was choice. You see, I think most people don't recognize that you do actually have a choice in everything that happens in your life. And from this moment forward, what are you going to do about it? I think that it is so hard when you come from a place of having agency stripped, being told you're not good enough, you're not capable enough, you're not smart enough, you're whatever, not enough. To kind of reinforce that into yourself is so detrimental. And to be in that place is dark. But the only way you're going to work through that is to overcome it, right? Through doing hard things and building yourself. I didn't have self-esteem until I was 27 years old. Now, almost a decade removed from that, I think about the difference in my life. And it was all predicated on the choice of doing what I knew I needed to do. Go to therapy, go to men's group therapy, try hypnotherapy, get certified in this thing and that thing and this thing, go to personal growth development events, read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, even though there weren't that many back then, do the whole nine to get to that place that I could ultimately say, I chose this life that I now live.
I love that. Here's the thing, we're all healing from something, right? We're healing from pain and loss and disappointment. We're all healing for something. And I want everyone to understand that what you just said is beautiful. And it's not a destination we ever get to. It's a journey that we keep moving towards, right? There's no perfection. If we got to that place, what do? Everything's perfect. You have to take one step at a time. It's definitely a journey. What are some of the easy tips that you can give people to start that first step?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This requires an immense amount of patience. Every single day of your life, for the rest of your life, you're going to be on this journey, whatever that journey is. And I think one of the things that's really powerful is to recognize that there's not going to be a single day or moment in time which suddenly you're in it and you go, wow, everything about my life is different. I never have to do the work again. And, every time that I had tried that previously, where I ended up back in my old behaviors. Because what I recognize is that this is a rest of my life thing. Every single day of your life is a choice, right? And so that is the biggest thing. Like, can you just recognize the idea that it's about being patient? And more so knowing that you're going through this healing journey not alone. There are millions of people around the world who have been impacted by very traumatic experiences. There are unbelievable number of support groups, online groups, group therapy, individual therapy. There are resources out there. And part of that is the shame and guilt of the idea of even stepping into that can be so burdensome for so many people. You have to be willing to look at yourself unbiasedly and just acknowledge bad things happen. I can work through this. It's not my fault. Look, you are not culpable for the things that you cannot possibly be responsible for. And we have to let go of the guilt that is associated with events that are somehow, quote unquote, our fault, even though they're not. And that's really hard because we carry the societal guilt and shame of you should have done this or you should have done that. But realistically, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but we're all just doing the best that we can and nobody knows what the hell's going on.
I agree. We are doing the best we can. I think too that people don't understand that when you're a child, you don't have as much say so, right? You don't understand, like somebody else is making all of your choices. And when you're an adult, you can step out of that. You can start choosing the direction you want your life to go into. And when you do, it becomes very powerful. And if you fail, it's okay. It was your choice. I don't ever say fail because I feel like it's always feedback. I'm always just getting more feedback on what's really working for me and what maybe not so much. So if you get a lot of feedback along the way, yay, means you're probably going somewhere pretty dang awesome.
Yeah, and if you're not, that means you're not trying. And I fail every single day. It's a word that I actually love because I use it as a measurement. And I go, cool, I had this experience here. Now I know what not to do. I can still continue to move forward towards whatever that thing is, now with having a better understanding. And I think most people are scared to fail because trying means that you may not get that immediate result. And I just think about this all the time. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I was 350 pounds and I was embarrassed to walk outside. And now every single day I love myself. If I would have been scared to even try and have an unbelievable number of failures on that journey, this story would be very different. We probably wouldn't be talking to each other. Now, that's only a small glimpse into it, but I'm thinking about how do we empower people to step through it? And to me, it starts with trying.
You talk about your weight loss journey and you obviously did not lose it overnight in 30 days. Like it doesn't just, there's no magic pill for that once we get to that point. I also had to lose almost 200 pounds. And let me tell you, when I lost 50 pounds, I was so proud of myself, 50 pounds. And I went and told everyone and they're like, oh, I didn't even notice. Because when you have to lose a lot of weight, they don't notice the 5, 10, 15 pounds that you're celebrating dropping off. They don't notice it, right? And so you feel like a failure, like no one's even noticing, but it's a long journey. And I had to get my mind wrapped around that. I didn't care about the big number. I just wanted to lose 5 pounds. And I 5-pound my way all the way down to a healthy size, right? A healthy lifestyle. But it was one step at a time, 5 pounds at a time. I can do 5 pounds. I might not be able to do 200, but I can do 5.
Yeah.
And I just kept doing 5 until I got there. And it took years to do that.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. And I think that's such a great analogy for the way that people should look at life. I do. I have these huge overarching goals and ideas and concepts about the way that I want to exist in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I got 40 years down my lifeline mapped out, understanding that That's not going to happen overnight. And we have this weird misnomer, and especially Western society, of this idea of the overnight success. And it's just not true. Everyone who's ever done anything great, it took them a very long time to get there. Right. And I'm always thinking about that. Like, it's going to take a long time to create change in your life. And you have to just stay the course, knowing that one day you'll get to whatever that place is, whatever that goal is, whatever you want to identify. If you are truly about it and you truly want it, you'll do whatever it takes to get there, right? I'm sure you had days where you fell off, where you were like back in old behaviors, where you were beating yourself up, and you just said, no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And that's what it's about. Just keep going.
I know one of the habits I picked up from that experience was I have to go on scale every day. And someone told me that that was mentally not healthy. But I told him, for me, it's okay, because I would rather lose 5 pounds, because I know I can do that, than let it get to 30 or 40 pounds because I'm not paying attention. So I just get on there. And if I hit that over 5 pound mark, I'm like, okay, so this week I need to do a little extra work on myself and, make sure I'm getting back on track with eating healthy and moving a lot. So I think that keeping the progress and celebrating those little teeny things that happen along the way are so important than just celebrating the final outcome.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that trauma survivors, and really most people, do really poorly is to give themselves accolades for the things that they've done. I remember I used to, in a former life, I was an international wedding photographer, and I would get published in magazines, or I'd get an award or whatever it is. I would throw them in the trash, and I would just go, right? Not recognizing, like, oh my God, even to get to the point to get an award or to get published in a magazine or whatever that thing was, takes years of hard work. And I would just throw it in the trash and not give myself that moment, because we're so used to the world pulling us down all of the time that we don't know how to push ourselves up. And I would argue, if you take a shower today and you haven't had one in 4 days and your life's a mess, maybe that's something you acknowledge and go, I'm proud of myself in this moment, even though it's something so small and tedious. And every time you get on the treadmill, and every time you read the book, and every time you go to the seminar, and every time you pay your bills on time, and every time you don't smoke that cigarette, it's about congratulations to me, because I finally am doing the thing that I said. People are always seeking this idea of self-esteem and self-belief. Well, it starts with doing the things that you say you're going to do. And then on the backside, taking a moment and just acknowledging that journey, because realistically, for a long time, the hardest thing that I could ever do was just get out of bed.
I hear you. I want to definitely send people to your podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and what they're going to find when they go there?
Yeah, so it's called the Michael Unbroken podcast. So it's broken up into 2 ways. One is what I think to be coaching, which I do on Tuesdays. I generally pull questions that people share with me on social media or email me, or maybe it's in one of my webinars or group calls, and then I dive into it. Most recently, I was talking about how do you discuss your trauma experience while dating, right? And then on Thursdays, it's kind of like this, a back and forth with people who I believe are experts, doctors, coaches, scientists, researchers, people who I believe, like when I was on my journey, can give someone something that can create change in their life.
Well, then I'm going to put your link into the show notes, because I want everyone to go over and subscribe and show Michael some love on his podcast, because it's
Thank
a
you.
lot putting out a podcast, right? It's a lot. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money. And we're doing a lot of good with sharing it. So go there and grab some of his goodness there. And I'm going to also put the link to your book so that they can grab the book, along with everything else that they can connect with you on social media. All those links, we're going to put them in there so they can find you.
Awesome.
So, Michael, by the way, I think your story is fascinating. And I love that you're out there sharing hope with other people in the world. And for anyone who's listening right now, if you're feeling scared, or someone's telling you just get over it, you know what? Reach out to Michael and figure out how you can get through it, and take that past trauma and live with it, right? But turn it into something else and free yourself into being the person that you want to be. Start writing your own story and start being the person who makes the choices for you. Thank you so much, Michael, for being here today. I really appreciate having you on the show, and I'm so grateful that you shared your story.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for giving me the platform. It's so meaningful, and I'm so gracious to you for your time.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.